Hello, hello, my gorgeous ones. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. We have, well, we always have stuff going on with the planets, right? But the bigger picture or the most prominent things are the things that I kind of want to bring when I do tarot readings, right? So we have Jupiter transiting from Libra to Scorpio on October 10th. So I want to talk about that first. So welcome, welcome all you new ones. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cindy. I am the modern day spiritual advisor. I use multiple modalities to help you on your path, including tarot, astrology, hypnotherapy, and mediumship. So I want to let everybody know, or I want to thank everybody for being patient, because when I'm doing tarot, or especially with this channel, I'm expanding it just from tarot. I'm a teacher, I'm a spiritual advisor, that's what I do. So I'm always sort of teaching you guys. So I had to like really meditate, get centered, and try to help, or try to see how I was going to teach this, right? So, because it's important, there's such a big group that's watching, it's important for, everyone to sort of get the concept, right? And when I do that, I know the way a Virgo is hearing me is not the same way a Scorpio is hearing me, or a Cancer is hearing me, or an Aquarius is hearing me. So even though you may get frustrated at the way that I say things, just understand that it's not just you watching. There are many, many, many watching. It's important for everyone to get the concept. That's the way that I teach. So, back to this Jupiter transiting into Scorpio. So Jupiter transits for a year. And so October 10th, it's going to be transiting from Libra, because it was in Libra, and now it's going to move into Scorpio. So obviously when it moves into a different house and a different sign, then it's going to be doing different things, right? And so it's got to like play nice with the house, right? So it's almost like it's coming to live in a house, and the house has a, I don't know, ruler, a landlord, right? So when Scorpio, or when Jupiter moves into Scorpio, it's going to be doing something very different than when it did to Libra. Or it could be doing the same thing, just in a different way, right? So let's talk about Jupiter itself first. Okay, so Jupiter is it's a huge planet. So, and again, it transits for a year. And so Jupiter is the manifester. Jupiter in Vedic astrology, they call him the guru, right? Jupiter is the teacher. Jupiter wants to expand things. And Jupiter, pardon me, got something stuck in my throat. But Jupiter wants to like give gifts and expand your knowledge and expand your thinking and expand your way of life, right? But it wants to do it for responsible owners, okay? So, because it's a teacher. So it's like, yes, you can have your gifts, but you have to be responsible in them. It's almost like, when you get, because we've talked about lottery winners, when you get lottery winners, the person that's responsible and able to handle that is much different than the one that isn't. They're going to end up losing it, right? So Jupiter sees this and he wants to give it to everybody. Jupiter loves giving gifts, so he wants to give it to everybody, right? But he's saying, as a guru, there are responsibilities that you have to be able to take and have to be able to accept these gifts. So that's sort of Jupiter. Pardon me, I don't know what's wrong with my throat. It must be a lot of you guys and myself. So Jupiter is like law and virtue and wealth. But Jupiter, being the guru or being the teacher, looks at like a lot of levels of a situation, or a lot of levels of what's going on when he's going to give you those gifts, right? So he's looking at everything and he's teaching you about those things, right? So Jupiter being in whatever house it's going to be in for you is going to be teaching you and expanding. And so it, like in the 10th house, where it's like your fame and your persona and all that, oh my gosh, it can make you grow so much out into the world and become this like person that everybody goes to and knows, right? But Before Jupiter got there, it was like, did you work hard for that? Were you doing your 16 hours a day or 14 hours a day studying and going and doing? That's what Jupiter's saying. Jupiter's like, I want to give you these gifts. Are you ready for them? Are you ready for them? And if you're not, he'll teach you. He'll teach you. And he's a what they call a malefic planet, right? So malefic is like a beautiful soft planet, right? So when Jupiter's looking at things, it's looking in the sign or the house, wherever he's at. He's looking at the positive and the negative. He's looking at both, right? But Jupiter is a masculine, what they call a masculine planet. So meaning when it's a masculine planet, it wants to manifest externally. So it wants to give you like the material. So it manifests externally. It's not like this inner pull or inner thing. It's like whatever you're learning, it can manifest into the physical. Does that make sense? So it'll want to manifest on an external level, right? So there are going to be some times during this year in your chart where you're going to have like, you know, the Jupiter and then the sun and so all those other planets sort of help and talk to each other, and that's what's going to be going on in your planets. I mean, in your houses. So when I'm doing this tarot reading, I'm doing it from your ascending, but you can look at your moon and you can look at your sun and you can look at your Venus. I mean, you can look at those things, but when you look at them from their point of view. Okay. So, I know a lot of people were like, no, it's not in this house, it's in that house. Well, it's my astrology, it's my reading. So I'm going to say it the way that I see it, and I'm going to say it the way that I'm being told to say it. So it may not be what your chart says, but it's what my chart said, right? So I just wanted to make that clear. Let me make sure that I'm looking at my notes to make sure that I don't forget everything about Jupiter. So I think the most important thing to understand, because it's ruled by Mars, I'm sorry, it's not ruled by Mars. I was looking at Scorpio. I think the most important thing that you need to understand is everybody gets this misconception that Jupiter's just going to give gifts and everything's going to be okay. And it's not. It depends on how it works in your house. It depends on what planets are there in your house, what house it's at, and how it's talking to the other planets, and how it's actually talking to the sign in your house, right? But it's going to be in Scorpio. So let's talk a little bit about Scorpio. So Scorpio is ruled by Mars, right? And we all know Mars. Mars is that ambition. It's that thing, that drive that makes you work hard, right? But also Mars can like take away harshly too. So Mars being, Scorpio being ruled by Mars, you're going to see that it's going to want to like, Jupiter is going to have to express itself in a Martian way, right? That makes sense? So let me say it this way. Let's just say, so Jupiter's been in a home in Libra for a year, and now he's got to move to a different home, right? So he's moving into Scorpio. And Scorpio, we'll just say the landlord is Mars, right? So Jupiter has to like sort of go by the rules of Mars and Scorpio, right? So if you think about it that way, that may help you. And the reason I'm explaining these characteristics, because I think it's really important for you to understand the planet and the sign and then your house, so that you know how to ultimately express these things, how to manifest these things in your life. Because you can, this is what the astrologers call octaves. Like you can express it in a negative, excuse me, what you call a negative way, or you can go to the finer vibration and express it in a positive way. But that's kind of up to you. That's where we have free will. That's where we have choices, right? And that's kind of up to you. But my job is to help you, to give you the knowledge and the understanding so that you know what you're working with, right? When you have the tools, you know what you're working with, right? So let's talk about Scorpio. Scorpio is sometimes a misunderstood sign. I know I've had the pleasure of having beautiful Scorpios around me, really beautiful Scorpios around me. It's not that I haven't seen beautiful Scorpios around me, but I've had the pleasure of having all the octaves, or what you call all the octaves around me. So I know how beautiful they can be, but I know how sometimes they're misunderstood because, you know, when you think about Scorpio, oftentimes they're just thought of as the ones that are keeping secrets, the ones that, you know, can manipulate, and the ones that are very sexual. Well, yeah, those are, you know, that Scorpio itself has those things in it, has those characteristics in it, but it doesn't necessarily, that's not all of what Scorpio is. Scorpio is just this beautiful, it has so many other beautiful things. So let's talk about what that is. So let's talk about some characteristics. So some characteristics about Scorpio is being secretive and aggressive, the protector, right? So if you're close to any Scorpio, you know that they will protect you if they love you and they understand you. They will protect you till their death. Like, that's how Scorpios are. So, but they're also intuitive, very empathic, empathetic as well, right? And what they do is they love the taboo. They love what's out of the ordinary. So oftentimes the reason that they're secretive, they're not meaning to be secretive in a malicious way. They're being secretive because they're thinking, and this is not all Scorpios, but they're being secretive because they're thinking what I see in this situation is probably not what society sees, and people probably won't understand that I'm okay with this, so I would just rather not say anything. That's a Scorpio. They're not trying to be malicious. They're not trying to be secretive. They're always thinking of you and thinking, well, you know, they don't really need to know that part because it's just my thought and my perception anyway. That's a Scorpio, right? So oftentimes there's that miscommunication in relationships where Scorpios being secretive, but it's because they think that it might be more harmful to you if you know what they're really thinking is okay, right? So take that into consideration when you're dealing with a Scorpio. Scorpio is about transformation. And if you've followed me forever, this is one thing I've always said about Scorpios. I always see them as the rising phoenix. I see them as going in, figuring it out, that inner deep, deep, deep stuff, because that's what they want to do. They want the knowledge of that deep, deep, deep occult, deep hidden, deep, deep stuff, right? And then they transform themselves. So let me say this, if you have a Scorpio in your life, they definitely, as much as they will push your boundaries, as much as, they won't push your boundaries, as much as your boundaries will be pushed, as much as your knowledge of the hidden will be pushed, you will ultimately be transformed and have the change into what you're supposed to be. That's Scorpio. Scorpio transforms into what you're supposed to be. Okay? So, having Jupiter go into Scorpio, that is what we're going to be dealing with over this next year, right? And depending on, this is where, you know, you want your chart read by an astrologer. Depending on the degree and which house will depend on that type of transformation, will depend on that type of knowledge, will depend on that type of thing that's going on. But again, because Jupiter's in there, it's going to expand it. It's going to make it bigger, right? So going back to Jupiter going into Scorpio. So in this time with Jupiter going into Scorpio and having to play by Mars and Scorpio's rules, right? Because now they're roommates. Now he's got to, or that's his landlord. So now Jupiter's got to be like, Jupiter's like, well, I got to go by these rules. So Jupiter is going to be in your house, wherever he's at, is going to be digging deep for knowledge, digging deep for the teachings. That's what Jupiter's going to have to do, right? Because Jupiter and Mars are friends. So Jupiter plays well with Mars. He just has a different way of doing things. But he understands that once he's in the Scorpio house, he's got to play by the rules, right? Like I said, Jupiter loves to give gifts. He loves to do that. But Jupiter is also about transformation and expansion. So that's why they play well together. They just do it in a different way, right? It reminds me of when a Gemini and Aquarius get together. Because you guys know my son is Gemini ascending Aquarius. So I have, in my lifetime, many, many Aquarian relationships. And so we have the same understanding about things, but we will be expressing it and explaining it in a different way, right? So it reminds me of kind of that. And I'm sure there are other signs, but I'm just bringing that to me. So, the one thing about Scorpio is that it is intense. So Scorpio is very intense. So whatever you're going to be going through, whatever this house is going to be lit up for you, wherever you're trying to express yourself, is, remember, because I'd said before, the planets are about expressing. It's the way that you're wanting to express it. And where it falls in the houses are the area of life you're wanting to express it. But the planets and the sign are about the way that you're wanting to express in your life, okay? So you're going to have some intense, deep, hidden things come about in your love life, in your life itself, in your love for family, in your businesses, in your money, in all of that. That's what Scorpio is about. It's about transforming, and so is Jupiter. So you're going to have some big transformation, which makes sense as to why I kept feeling transformation for everybody, because there's big transformation going on this year. Now, of course, this is only part of where the planets are, but this is a big part. And that's why I've decided to do Jupiter and Scorpio. So I'm going to go over each house. I'm going to go over each sign and tell you where it's at in your house, and then do the month of October reading. Okay? So I hope I explained everything correctly. Oh, I did want to mention too, this is very important because I know some of you, again, I'm speaking to a whole but many different people. And some of you will associate better with a chakra, right? So Scorpio is associated with the solar plexus. It's associated with your third chakra, right? So if you don't know what the third chakra is, or the solar plexus chakra, you can think of the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh as those that come from above, and then so in the spiritual almost realm, or in the energetic realm, right? And then the two down below are the ones that come from earth, or this earth, right? So if you take what you know from above and what you have from below, and you bring them together, you manifest through your third chakra. So you're all about manifestation in this chakra. Okay, so I think that's very important for a lot of people to understand. Now, depending on what house it is in and where your planets are aligned is going to depend on how you're going to manifest these things. What are you going to manifest, right? What area of life you're going to manifest and how. So I will see you in a minute. Okay, one more thing before I begin, I forgot to say. I wanted to talk about the ascending, the sun, and the moon very quickly so that you guys understand when you're watching. If you're watching from the ascending, you take this perspective, or the sun, you take this perspective, or the moon, you take that perspective, right? So the ascending, you can think of that as like your identity here in this world, right? Your identity. But when it comes from your ascending, when you're looking at it from your ascending, you're talking about your past lives, or if you don't believe in past lives, the stuff that's fated to happen, the stuff that's supposed to happen, the stuff that comes from nowhere, the stuff that, or the things, or the situation, or the people, like those relationships and whatever, fame, whatever that is. When it comes from, when you're looking at, that's why I like to work from the ascending, because this is stuff that was supposed to be yours anyway. This is stuff that's coming in for you anyway, because this is what you wanted to experience, because this is how you wanted to manifest, because, for all different reasons. So, or because, in your past life you did so much work and now you brought some of the gifts for this life, right? That's what you're looking at when you're looking at the ascendant, right? And that's why, sometimes what you guys call miracle just happened. Well, it happened because it was coming from your ascending. It was what you wanted to experience it in that way, right? So that's why I like to look at the ascending. And when you're looking at your ascending, that's the way that you want to see it. Okay? I mean, or not, you can do whatever. I'm just saying this is my understanding. So your sun, when you're looking at your sun sign, or you're watching from your sun sign, these are the directions that you can take. This is the intention that you put on your goals and your relationships and your way of life and the things that are happening to you. This is where you can make your choices, right? So this is more of the conscious mind, right? So you can think of it as like the ascending coming from your subconscious and the sun coming from your conscious, although they all have both. But this is where you can make your decisions and put your intention and put your focus, and this is where, some people will say this is where your free will is, right? So when you're looking at it from your sun, it doesn't negate the fact that, your ascending isn't more important than your sun. It all kind of works together. It's just that the ascending is where you get like those things that you're like, wow, that just happened, or oh my gosh, that just happened, right? Because that stuff like you probably didn't even see coming because it was fated for you. It was supposed to come in for you. It was like, that's like the miracles. That's from your higher self. That's from spirit. That's from you, from your whole being, right? And then the sun is more of that conscious. Now the moon is the way, when you're looking at it from your moon, this is where you get the information or get the relationship or get the things around you, and you're looking at them and you're processing them. And we process them many different ways, but we do it and we connect with it emotionally, right? So that's why they call the moon the emotional part. So this is where you're processing the information, and that's what you're doing when you're looking at the moon. When you're looking at it from the moon side, you're gathering the information and you're processing it emotionally. You're trying to connect to it. What do I want to do with it? What do I want to do with that situation? What do I want to do with that person? What do I want to do with my life? What is going on, right? That's the moon. So I just thought that was very important for everybody to understand. And please, even though I'm saying look at it from the ascendant, don't don't box yourself in. This is why I don't just do astrology, because astrology, just sometimes some people are so analytical and so to the T that you're missing out on this whole bigger picture. So absolutely look at it from your moon, because you might see a different thing. Look at it from your sun, because you might see a different thing. Look at it from your ascending. Look at it from all sides. That way you gather all the information, because they're all important. Okay? So I hope that helps. I'll see you in a minute. All right, my beautiful Scorpios. So, of course, this is going to hit, Jupiter's going to go into your first house or your ascending house, right? They call it the rising, the first, or the ascending. So, what's the first house about, right? Let's talk about what the first house is about. So the first house is about who you are, your sort of placement in this world, who you are, who you were, who you're going to become more of, right? So that's what the first house, it's like your physical demeanor, but more than that, it's where like everything can come through that first house. Your situations, your love affair, like it's not the love affair house, but say this specific special love affair was destined for you in this lifetime. Like say that you wanted this particular one because it was that sort of contract. We'll just give that as an example. That could come through your first house. Even though it's, the fifth house is love affairs, but it could come through your first house because it's you, it's who you're supposed to become, it's who you are, it's who you're supposed to become more of, right? So it has to do with your physical demeanor as well. So it's called the I am house. It's your identity. So with Jupiter going into your first house, remember, Jupiter wants to expand, but it's going to do it in a Martian way, right? So it's going to do it in a physicality way. It's going to do it in a, a little bit more direct way, I guess, but with vigor and with life and with like oomph, right? Or, yeah, like ambition and drive, right? So that's what's going. So with Jupiter being in there, it's going to be expanding this house. It's going to be expanding your identity, expanding you, expanding your, it could be expanding your self body. So remember, I said there are different octaves. There are different, like, what are you going to take from this? With Jupiter, you can do what you guys call positive and negative, unevolved and evolved. So, with it expanding, you could expand and gain weight. We'll just say that. Or you could expand and gain muscle. Like, you could be working out because, coming from this first house, you're wanting to like, that's who you are and that's where you're wanting to go and that's what you're wanting. And so you'll expand to like, all of a sudden, like your physique gets way better. Or, you know, if you're not paying attention and just sort of letting it ride, you could, or not even that, you could like be indulging too much because you can have indulgence in this. So indulging and maybe some addiction and sort of, you know, you can sort of expand the body as well. So because it has to do with your physical demeanor as well, and because Jupiter wants to physically manifest, you know, it's your choice what you're going to do in this house. When it comes to you, what are you going to do? But you in this house, it's going to expand. So what type of expansion depends on you. So because it's all of you, you could have career opportunities, money opportunities. You could have all of a sudden, like if it's coming from your 12th house and into your first house, you know, the 12th house is about the hidden. And, you know, sometimes, because remember, if you watch my other video and I talked about the 12th house, this house is not meant to be resolved, the 12th house. The 12th house is like, it's also called your shadow, the shadow side of you, right? So the 12th house is not meant to be resolved. It's not meant to know everything that's in this house. It's meant to work in balance when those things come to you. So if you were like in the 12th house and you've been working on this stuff and it's not being clear for you, like all of a sudden when Jupiter gets into that first house and you're ascending, when it goes into Scorpio, you're going to get clarity on your path. You're going to get clarity in your situations. You're going to get really, really clear in this, and it's going to expand, right? So, but Jupiter being a benefic planet, I accidentally said malefic, and apparently people have not learned when I said don't box yourself in. Because it's a benefic planet, it wants to do it, if it doesn't want to, so Jupiter doesn't want to hurt you, so it'll sort of try to protect you too. So it may try to give it to you in a softer way. So, and I'm talking about all kinds of different things. So what it wants to do though is it wants to bless you. So it could also, because if you were dealing with stuff like from your 12th house and you were having like physical issues, like you know, I don't know, like you had some symptoms and you couldn't figure it out and nobody could figure it out. Like all of a sudden when Jupiter goes into your first house, you could figure it out. Like you could get some clarity and all of a sudden they know what's going on and you get the right nutrition guide, or you get the right medication, or you get the whatever this is, you know, like you get really, really clear in this house. So that's what this house is about. It's going to be blessing you. Jupiter wants to give you gifts. It wants to give you, but it wants to give you the gifts from your path. It wants to give you the clarity. It wants to give you, it wants to teach you to be more of who you're meant to be here. Okay. So with that being said, oh, I think I wrote that it was, give me just a second. I'm looking. It could be aspecting your first, fifth, and ninth. So those things in your first house, I'm sorry, it is in your first house, your fifth and ninth house. So, well, like I said, the love affair. Yeah, absolutely. So, with it aspecting your fifth and ninth house, I think it's your fifth and ninth house. Yeah. With it aspecting your fifth and ninth house, you could get resolution in those things. You could get some clarity in those things, because remember, Jupiter's trying to bless you. It's trying to expand you. It's trying to expand those houses. So it's looking at those houses and it's trying to bless them as well. Okay. So with that being said, let's do your love forecast for October. Remember, it starts October 10th. 2017 till November of 2018. So you won't get all the gifts at once. It'll be unfolding as you're learning, as you're expanding, as you're growing, right? So, and I think it's time for some clarity for you guys, because I think as much as you guys have tried to like make the right decisions and been really trying to center, and there's still some like things that were not clicking yet. And I think when this happens, like I can see it here, where it's gonna click and you're gonna get some things, okay? And you're gonna get some clarity. Clarity is the big thing for you right now. So in your first position, this is you. So you have the Chariot. So like I said, the Chariot is about, you know, taking taking the reins and directing where you want this force to go, directing where you want your life to go. Do I want to go left? Do I want to go right? Do I want to go right? Do I want to go left? So your position now is like, I'm taking action, I'm making the decision, and I'm going to do it. And you persevere through hard work with the Chariot. So that's sort of your position. Some of you are at this point where you're not knowing exactly which direction to go with, but you kind of have an idea, but you haven't taken the action yet because this is in your present. So for some of you, you've actually done it, and for others of you, I feel like you're like right in the middle. And the reason I say this is because what's crossing you, their advice, is the Star card. So the Star card is, I see this two different ways. Some of you are reconciling with someone, family members. I see a lot of you going back to your family. You know, I see relationships mending with your family, with your children, with your life, actually. So that's how I see this is, but for others of you, it's an actual like romantic relationship. Somebody has come into your life, or you've been dealing with some of your past, because that's in your third house, and they're saying there is reconciliation there. And with the Star card, you see the blessings they're pouring. It's exactly what you're really wanting. It's scary. You don't know how it's going to go. You're so like, some of you have just been so beat down that you're like, I'm almost afraid to move because if one more thing happens, I don't know that I can take it. And they're saying, trust that you're on the path you're supposed to be. Trust that we know you and that you've done the work. And now it's just about the unfolding. But there are some things that you do have to face so that you can reconnect, because it's where you're wanting to go anyway. Okay? So that's their advice. What you came from was the Six of Cups. So you've been dealing with someone from the past, or even some of you reconnecting with yourselves. I see that too, where you're reconnecting with yourself. You're reconnecting with that person that you loved at one time, that you were like, you were the light of the party, and you were the depth of everybody. You just knew that. And so some of you, I see that you'd reconnected with yourself and really trying to understand what you're wanting, right? And again, because you're Scorpio, it's the rising phoenix. I always see you going in, really delving in the deep part where people don't like to look. You go in there like brave soldiers and just delve into there, and then you come out transformed. You know it's going to hurt sometimes, you know it doesn't feel good sometimes, but you do it. And that's what I admire about you. And then so for others of you, it is a specific person or it's family. I kind of feel like for a lot of you it's family. Dealing with some family members that you hadn't dealt with before, or maybe you sort of pushed them off to the side because you were doing other things. Not in a bad way, just that you were focused on other things. But you know, you're coming to a place where you had to reconnect, or you're wanting to reconnect because you're understanding more about yourself. And so I feel like you've been dealing with this person, and now it's about making your decisions. That's what you've come through. Now it's about making your decisions, because for some of you, it is a romantic partner. It is a partner that you once had or once dealt with, and had come back and been dealing with that person. And it's about making the decision. And again, their advice to some of you, and not everybody for romantic, but some of you, it is a reconciliation time. It is a time in the romance area for you to go back to center, for you to connect with that person, but be very clear about what's going on, okay? So in the first 2 weeks of October, you have the Death card. This is all about transformation in your ascending, in your love life, in your money, in your contracts, in your businesses, wherever your love is. If you've never seen me before, to me, love is the energy or force that moves through all vibrations. So wherever your attention and focus has been on, this is the transformation that's going on. Okay? So out with the old, in with the new. And for some of you, you've been trying so hard to be brave and make these decisions, and things are kind of working out, but you're not really sure. And so I feel like the first week of October, things are going to get really, really clear. I really feel like all of a sudden, I feel like when Jupiter hits into Scorpio, you're going to get a lot of clarity, okay? So for some of you, in the romance area, that means letting go of the past, letting go of that person, and coming to the new vibration, the new energy, the new space, okay? But whatever this is, in the first 2 weeks, you'll be dealing with transformation. You'll be dealing with out with the old, in with the new, okay? Now, in your fifth position, I always ask your higher self, what is the one message they want to bring through to help you move forward in love? They have the 7 of coins for you, or your higher self has the 7 of coins for you, which means trust us, trust yourself. If you've done the work and nourished the tree, it is coming to be that time where you can reap the benefits of your rewards, of what you've worked on so hard. It just took a while to get this tree nourished, okay? Because some of you had started nourishing the tree and then you ignored it. But they're saying this time is near. This time is near. You're going to get those things that you're wanting, and you have such transformation in this house, and you have such transformation in the phase of life that if you've done the work, trust that you'll be able to reap these benefits, because that's what's coming for not just October. I feel like this whole year is really good for you. Okay, I feel like great stuff comes for some of you. Okay, now in the second half of the month, you have the 5 of coins. So the 5 of coins is all about coming from a space of scarcity, right? And so because you're transforming, because these things are happening, I feel like at the second part of October, you're still sort of gun shy. I feel like you're still coming from a place of scarcity, like like, no, it's not enough, or it's not going to come through, or it's, and I kind of feel like you'll be dealing with that at the second half. But you have to remember, when Jupiter comes in and these things that are happening, they're going to unfold in time, right? You're not going to get all your blessings at once. You're going to get them throughout the year, because as Jupiter's giving you the gifts and the talents and the blessing, right? As Jupiter's giving that to you, you're learning and you're expanding. And yes, as much as you can go in and transform yourself, you don't want all your gifts at once. It's going to be kind of boring if you do that. So something happens in the second part of October that causes you to go back to the habit of that scarcity. What if it doesn't? What happens if I don't do it right? What happens if this person does it right? What happens if I saw it wrong? What happens, right? So you can always turn this upside down. You can turn the energy, you can transform it and say, no, I'm going to trust here that I have worked hard enough, and now I'm getting clarity, and I can move forward. Even though it doesn't look like it's going to happen, you never know. It's in your ascending. It comes from nowhere, okay? And this, I'm talking about your businesses, your family, your romantic partners, your money, like your contracts, all of that. It just depends on where your love is. Okay. Now, for others of you, I feel like with the transformation, the second half, you're just sort of resting because you're just beat. You're done. Like, you've had so much going on, and you had to make the tough decisions, and you had to do some of the things that you really didn't want to do, but you had to do because that's what was going to help you move forward. And so instead of thinking about it, you just had a knowing and said, all right, let's do it, right? So I feel like in the second half, you'll sort of just be like, you won't have any more to give at that point. You'll just be sort of resting with the situation, with a loved one, with the family. Like, I feel like you'll be pulling back, okay? So, but remember, this is just October. We still have a whole year. So in your seventh position, this is your fear. So a lot of you are fearing, is that person coming in? The Knight of Coins. Is that person coming in? Is that offer ever coming in? Is that big thing ever coming in? Is that money ever coming in? And are those contracts? Can I rest? Can I just stop for a minute? Can I stop transforming, right? Will it ever be in a place where it's stable and I'm comfortable and I don't have to fight? That's what I'm feeling with you guys. And remember, if you've done the work and you've cleared your field and you know where you want to go next, right? You're going to know when it goes into your ascending. You're going to get clarity about that. But when you do that, this is just a fear. A fear is there to remind you of what you want and what you don't want. So you know what you don't want, focus on what you want. Just continue to see that and be in that and feel that, right? So in your eighth position, this is the way a loved one will be viewing you or dealing with you. And for some of you, this is the universe. You have the Seven of Wands. The way that they're dealing with you is they're going to stand up. They're going to stand up and they're going to fight. They're going to like, I feel like for some of you, it's because you're needing to put your boundaries like for sure, right? So the way they deal with you, there are some situations that have to like get resolved so that you can get clear, so that you can move forward, right? And I feel like whatever this is a situation that has, they're going to stand up for what they know. And it's your turn to stand up too. Like, you got it, you know this. So I feel like maybe with a partner, they're not backing down about something. I feel like, you know, I kind of feel like some of you are like, you're just so like chaotic and don't know where to go that you just start fighting, right? Or arguing. And so I feel like that's where their stance is because of that. And so you know, there's a gentler way to do it. That's just for some of you. For others of you, this is the universe saying, because this is the universe saying, you got this. You got this. We have to be the duality part of what you're trying to become, what you're trying to transform into. So stand up for what you know. Take the actions needed for what you need to do so that you can get on that path that you see, the path that you feel, the path that you know, that intuitive path, like that place where you're like, yeah, I know I see that, right? I know I can have that because I see it. That's what they're trying to get you to. That was a different explanation, but that's what they were telling me. So in your ninth position, this is your hopes and dreams. But for me, that's the outer energy, outer realm of what's coming in. You have the Three of Cups. And the Three of Cups is all about celebration. So it looks like after this transformation, this first phase, because you're going to be going through several during the year, but after this first transformation, and when you're sort of like just beat and can't do anything, you know, anymore about the situation, and you're just like, ugh. I feel like at that time you have a little bit of celebration coming in. It'll make you happy, it'll make you more relaxed, and it'll make you, so I'm hearing them say, it'll make you have faith in humanity again. That's what I'm hearing them say, okay? Now, in your 10th position, this is the overall outcome of what you'll be working through. This is really, really important for you guys because it is about transformation and taking a stance and making a decision. So you have the Two of Wands. So there are some actions that you have to take to go left or to go right. And remember, because you don't want to stay in the middle, you want to go left or you want to go right. But they're saying just because you go left does not mean you can't have the right. It just means in the unfolding of space-time, pick one. And then you never know when it sort of intersects with the other, right? So this is what you'll be working through in the month of October, making those hard decisions that you have to make. But it's time for you. But they're saying do not make them until you're clear. And you'll get clear because it's going into your first house to give you some clarity. It's going into your ascending to give you some clarity. And when you do, take the action and make the decision, which I know you can. Okay? So some of you, that does mean letting go of a partner. For others of you, that means moving towards a partner. For some of you, that means a partner in business. Others, that moves away from a partner in business. Others, that's actually moving one place or the other. Like, you have to make your decision. It doesn't mean you can't have both. It just means pick one. Okay? All right, my gorgeous ones. Thank you so very much for watching and liking and sharing and subscribing. I so love and appreciate you. Like I said before, I know that it can get kind of annoying, some of the commercials and ads and stuff, but it really helps me out when you watch and when you like and when you subscribe and when you share. Love you, love you, love you. Bye.